Welcome to Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast. It's with a page called No Political Campaigns. No More Political Campaigns. The person representing the account is named Kathleen, so she's going to talk to us about her interesting proposal. So welcome to the podcast, Kathleen.
Thank you.
If we get started, be kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
I am a 66-year-old female who has several degrees and has become a little frustrated about our election process. And I put that page up a few years ago. Hasn't been very active recently, but I think a lot of people are frustrated with our election process.
Yes, that's a theme we hear a lot in this podcast. So you got a great point there. So if I could ask, what are the degrees in?
A B in economics and political science, a JD, and MLS, and I have a partial MBA.
Wow. Okay, that's good stuff. So it sounds like that pertains directly to this topic that we have here.
Possibly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So for those of, I got a master's degree I got an MA. So an MLS, that's in legal science. Is that like a master's degree?
The master's was a master's in library science.
Oh, in library science. Library science. Okay.
JD is a Juris Doctorate. MLS is a master in library science.
Okay, I get you. Okay. So you have a master's in library science as well as a law degree. Wow.
Yes.
So, if I may ask, what type of profession or professions did you use all those degrees for?
I was in the legal education field for many years and then decided to move to helping the public more, so I became a manager of public libraries.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sounds good. So if we could tell us about how you got involved in politics. You mentioned right now that you wanted to help people more, so you got involved in managing libraries. So what led you to get involved in politics in particular?
My family had a little bit of in politics, but not much. And I've never actually run for office or anything. But I have helped as a poll person for many, many years.
Oh, you did. So you were a poll monitor?
Not a poll monitor. I was a poll worker.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you're from, but in Ohio, you are precinct judges, you're precinct workers.
Oh, okay. So you're the people that we see at the polls when we go to vote.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay. So what did you learn from that process from working in that capacity?
I learned that we are very, very, very safe. We have actually turned people away who we felt didn't have the right documentation. And it frustrates me sometimes when politicians continuously say the system is rigged, the system allows people to vote when they're not supposed to. And I think a lot of those people who say that have never worked the polls and have
Sure.
never seen behind the scenes.
Okay. Sure. That makes sense. You hear about people doing that, people judging something they haven't done themselves, so that makes sense. Sure. So this webpage that you created, No More Political Campaigns, was the genesis of that in anything to do with poll working because you were watching elections, or did that come from another source, or both, or something
It was just the
combined?
frustration of seeing how for years we would, like right now, people are now beginning to discuss the 2028 elections.
Yes.
You know, most countries do not take 4 years to run a campaign. Most countries do not spend millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to win races. I mean, this past election process was just unbelievable amount of money that was thrown into the elections that could have
Yes.
helped this country in many other ways.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, and it's
Sure.
almost like it's bought election.
Okay. Okay. So you're concerned with the public, with the private financing of campaigns.
Well, part of it is the private financing, the Supreme Court case that allowed corporations and people to just throw money into it was just amazing. I just feel that, as I said, many countries don't allow this amount of time, don't allow this amount of money to be spent on elections. And it's, I mean, as I said, you know, Elon Musk recently was a prime example of billionaires buying the election.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. So
I just
what's
think that our campaign needs to end. We just need to end it.
You need to end it. Okay, so what's the best way to end it then? What's the best way to advance it? It would be through legislative act? Would it be as a constitutional amendment, state by state? What would be the best way?
You're never going to get a constitutional amendment to change this. And we're one of the few countries where it isn't an actual nationwide policy. States themselves decide how they run their elections.
Okay.
So you've got all these states, so it's going to have to be through the states. But even then, it's impossible because the federal government pretty much handles just how people are doing things. Even though the states make the decision on how to run the elections, it is our country in itself, the way people think, that we run this election. You cannot get a constitutional amendment on this. Maybe you can get legislation, but not the way we're going right now.
Okay. Okay, so the states then, would they pass legislation to change this?
They could pass legislation themselves on certain parts of the election process.
Okay.
And I think that would be a good start, but I also think our Congress needs to seriously look at how we're running our elections. I don't know why many other countries can run an election between a few weeks to maybe a year max and limit the amount of money and limit everything else, what you people can say.
Yes.
I just think that our recent election was just the worst that we've ever had.
Oh my.
And the amount of money and the amount of what people said and the amount of time that, I mean, Donald Trump was running for 4 years. DeSantis was running for 500 and some days. I mean, that's way above what you need to run for an election.
Yes. So why do you think we extended so long in this country versus other countries? You're probably comparing us to also other countries at our level, other wealthy democracies. So why is our system so different? What caused this to happen?
It's just that we don't have the rules that other countries do.
Oh, okay.
It's a free for all. It's the Wild West.
Okay.
So like Kamala Harris, she only had 107 days, even though she really kind of had more because Biden. But when Biden dropped out, she campaigned for 107 days. Donald Trump, and even though they said he campaigned for maybe 2 years, he really was campaigning since he lost the election in 2020. Ted Cruz,
Sure.
he had 596 days of campaigning. That's vastly. But it's legal. I mean, anybody campaign anyway. And then the way that we're using social media and TV and everything else to just throw nasty campaign ads out and throwing tons of money. It's sad.
Okay. For the other countries that you studied, so I think they're less nasty. They're less nasty with their campaigns.
Like according to the Mexican Constitution, broadcasting of all government publicity in the media is banned, with the exception of information campaigns on education, health, and emergency. That, a lot of people say, oh, well, Mexico, who cares? But it does in the sense that that is the way they do it.
Yeah.
Australia, they had an election campaign that only spanned 36 days.
Wow.
And it's just amazing that they do have great voter turnout.
Huh.
And any donations over $14,500 must be declared by parties. And donations of over $1,000 from foreign donors are banned entirely.
Wow.
So that's Australia. And in America, it's a free-for-all. You have Elon Musk throwing millions and millions of dollars. I think it was $250 million into it.
Goodness.
UK, Starmer started his election summer, ran the campaign for only 35 days.
Wow.
And all political advertising is banned from being on the radio or television. But you can use leaflets or newspapers.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's kind of nice. I mean, I really refuse to listen to TV or radio during our election process because almost every ad was political, and every ad was, instead of telling you what they might do for you, it was destroy the other side. It was basically nasty.
Okay.
So I'm just saying there's so many different things going on.
Oh, wow. So you got to take it from different angles, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that we are like the Wild West of all. Like in Canada, the minimum length of an electoral campaign is 36 days. Trudeau in 2015 had only 78 days before election. And there is a blackout period, which is observed the day before the election day to the end of election day itself, on all political advertising. So people cannot have someone, screaming at them during the election process itself.
Okay. You raised interesting points, and it is. I agree that it's important to compare it to other countries as a model. And you're right. People might discredit Mexico, but I can't say I've studied Mexico a lot. But what I have studied of Mexico, they do some things right. So it's important to I think the Mexican example is certainly valid, and the other ones are valid as well. So when they have shorter election periods, does that make the campaigning better as they have less frivolous material on there about what candidates eat and stuff like that? Is that what happens when the campaigns are shorter? Or how does that affect the quality of the campaigns, the content of the campaigns when they're shorter versus ours that are endless?
Yeah, as an example, in Canada, I believe it was 2015 when it was a short election period, 71% of the eligible voters took part. I mean, in other words, people weren't sick of the elections. People weren't sick of the candidates. People were not tired and saying, excuse me, but I'm done with this. I do not like either candidate. I'm just leaving it. I think it helps in the sense that people don't become sick of the elections themselves and become just distrustful. But it's also just the way we treat our elections, where if you don't win nowadays, the idea is to scream, it's a fraud. I mean, it has to be granted that Harris and Biden didn't say that, but other candidates did of certain parties. If they didn't win, it was a fraud. That started in 2020, and it's going to continue.
Yeah. Yep, good point. So it would seem also that if the elections are shorter in length than ours, that would cause people, because when it's so long, like you're talking about, then it makes it less special in a way, because it's it's constant. It's always here. Where they're more scarce, it seems to be more valuable. So, do you find that when the countries that have the shorter elections, people are, because they're shorter, they're not around 100% of the time, they're paying more attention because that's the window they have to pay attention.
True. And you know, a lot of people said, even though we had these huge time spans of campaigning, so many people said, oh, I can't vote for either one of them because I really don't know their issues. I don't know what they care for. I don't know how you could miss since it's been on for years. In other words, people just become numb with it and don't even listen. If they have a chance, I mean, if they're going to listen, they're going to listen the last few weeks, months. But when people say, oh, I don't know what they stand for, I don't listen anymore, that to me means people have tuned out.
Oh, sure. So if the campaigns are shorter, who does that give an advantage to? The candidates that don't have as much money, or the candidates that do have more money?
And my feeling is a lot of countries also limit the amount of money you can spend.
Okay,
so it
that's
doesn't matter. I mean, in other words, you don't have Elon Musk coming in and throwing $250 million into a campaign and then threaten everybody else in the future that he is going to do the same for anybody who crosses him. You know, that's part of it. You know, you got to get rid of both the length of the campaign and how they campaign.
Okay. Okay. So one alone, taking rid of the length alone will do some stuff, but it won't do everything. So you also need to do getting rid of the money in the campaign.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So
it seems to be only millionaires, billionaires nowadays can run for election.
yes,
because
unfortunately.
the amount of time it takes in campaigning and the amount of advertisement on radio, television, social media is pretty free unless you bought the social media spot.
Yeah.
That is, it does. I mean, you will not see a normal person running for any large political seat. You know, it may be different with your local school board, but when it gets to the state level or beyond, you can't do it without millions and billions of dollars.
Sure.
Not nowadays.
Yes. You make a good point about time, too, because campaigning is a full-time job. So we interview candidates here on our podcast who, most of them have to continue working their job in campaigning, and that's very difficult. So some of these people, Donald Trump doesn't have to do anything during his campaign. He can do the campaign as much as he can. So that would disadvantage people who, most of the rest of us who aren't independently wealthy, who can't stop working for 4 years at a time. So a shorter period, someone could stop working. They could take a vacation for a month. Most of us have some vacation, so if we wanted to run for office, we could save up our vacation time and have 30 days and do it and then come back. Just like somebody that went to Cancun. So sure.
Yeah. And you know, as an example of spending money, in Japan, political candidates aren't allowed to buy space in newspapers or time on the radio or other social forms of media. This gives every candidate an equal opportunity regardless of wealth. Signboards are only permitted in particularly equally sized areas.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned one way of doing it is, I forget which country, but you said one of the countries allow leaflets. So would that be the equalizer because leaflets are relatively inexpensive versus advertising on television and radio?
Yes, I mean, I'm sure leaflets or, let's say, signboards or what do you call those, street signs that people put on their lawns, which also is an aggravating thing. You know, those are a lot cheaper to do than paying for television and radio ads. Or newspaper ads. So newspapers are going down the hill fast, so I'm not sure how much is going to happen there.
Oh, sure.
But, you know, an example, I don't know about where you live, but around me, people will put up their little political signs 3 feet apart all the way down their lawn. So instead of just saying Trump or Biden once on their lawn, they have 10 or 15 of them, and you drive past them. You drive past these big banners that are floating over trees and everything else. After a while, it just becomes ugly, and you really begin to tune out what's happening.
Okay,
Your
sure.
mind just says, forget it.
Okay, sure. Sure, that makes sense. So what are some objections people have put to you about this, and how would you overcome those objections?
I mean, what can you say to people who say, oh, a week before the election, I really don't know who I'm going to vote for because I really don't know them and I don't know what they stand for. You can't say anything. What can you say? Or people say, I'm not voting for either. They're both making me sick. Well, what can you say?
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, I was sick of them too, but at least I did vote. It's true. I think people are being put off of our election process to the point where who knows what it would be like in the future.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how can you cannot contradict people who really do not care anymore, who do not listen anymore, who don't want to know anything anymore.
Okay. Sure. That's something to think about, sure. So we're also talking about how the other countries have higher voter turnout, and you seem to suggest that relates to the length of the campaign. So you think because we have voter turnout, the length of the campaign is a big reason, or do you think it's a multitude of other factors as well that cause low turnout?
I just think people are just sick of the elections, period. I think people don't care for the candidates anymore. They trash each other so bad that people say, I don't care about either of them. They're both sick.
Yeah.
Or if there's a third person, that could be that. But usually it's just two people running it, one from each party.
Yes,
and yeah, I don't know what to say. It's hard. I think we need to look at how we run our elections in the first place.
Okay. Okay, for negative campaigning, do you think that it depends on the type of negative campaigning that they do? Because some people would say that it's all right if they talk about the record that the person has, but stuff like Trump does, where he insults the appearance of someone's wife, is not beneficial to dialogue or electoral process. So do you think it matters, or is all negativity something we want to avoid?
That, just that example you gave, what does that have to do with running the country in 4 years, for 4 years?
Nothing.
It has nothing. Talk about a negative campaign, a campaign that put down anybody and everybody. He put down those who were disabled. He put down those who tried to tell the truth. He put down women. It just was very hard to listen to him because he would say something as an example. We need to bring down the cost of food. We need to bring down the cost of gas, and we will do it. But did he say how he was going to do it? No. That, in a way, is also negative because he promises things, but he doesn't tell you how he's going to do it. But if he goes ahead with the tariffs, which will actually be a tax on the United States people, stuff won't go down. It will go up in price.
Sure.
Way up.
Sure.
And he's already backtracked. In a recent interview, he said, the price of gas, the price of food, anything that's high is so hard to bring back down. Really, I don't know how we're going to do it. Well, but he promised in his campaign without telling people how he was going to do it. People believed him because it came out of his mouth that that's what he was going to do, not how he was going to do it. Our candidates need to tell us what needs to be done, but how it needs to be done too.
Okay, more specifics.
more specifics. Because as soon as he gets into office, it's going to be the other way around. And I wonder what the people will say who said, oh yeah, he's bringing everything down, if he brings in the tariffs and we have a trade war going on between Canada, Mexico, and everybody else. How are people going to feel when the price of gas and the price of food, much of our vegetables and fruit come from Mexico? What will happen when they find that the price of everything skyrockets? Who will they blame? Can't blame Trump because he didn't tell us how he was going to bring the price of stuff down. He just said we will. He didn't say when. It may be in 8 years and 10 years, but not if you have tariffs, not if you have a trade war, and even without the tariffs and trade war, he says it's so hard. Right now he says it is so hard to bring the price of stuff down. He didn't say that during the campaign. He just said it after the campaign when he won the election.
Huh. So why do you think he's saying that now when he said something different during the election?
He's beginning to get people ready for what's going to happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, have you ever heard of the saying gaslighting?
Oh, sure, yeah.
You say it 3 times, and people begin to believe it. Or 4 times, or 5 times. He's going to start saying it now, and people are going to start saying, yeah, you're right, it's going to be hard to bring down. Not that, wait, I voted for him because he was going to bring the stuff down.
Yeah.
I just think it's a whole different story now.
Okay. So he doesn't want people to blame the tariffs. He wants people not to blame the tariffs because it's inevitable prices will go up the way he's talking now. He
keeps saying the tariffs will be paid for by the other countries. People just don't remember that the tariffs are a tax on the people who are receiving the goods, not the people sending the goods. So we're in the long run. If the tariffs add 20% to a $2 or $200 item, that's $40 more now. So instead of paying $200, you're going to be paying $240, let's say. Just an example.
Great.
He's trying to prepare people to say, oh yeah, the tariffs are being paid for by other countries. And trust me, it's hard to bring down the cost of things. So if he keeps saying that, people are going to believe it. He's great at gaslighting. He's a great guy at that.
Unfortunately, yes. Okay, so that's something to be concerned about. So you got a good point about those tariffs and what he's doing with that. So yes, that's something to be concerned about.
Oh yeah, we all should be concerned about tariffs, but at this time, no one seems to be.
And maybe that goes back to what you're saying about election fatigue, because they're so overwhelmed by the last 4 years of the campaign, and they don't want to pay attention to this right now, which is beneficial to him because he can get things through that are harmful to us.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't give us the details. He tells us what people want to hear, and after that, it's silence. And he will tell them 3, 4, 5 times what they want to hear, and then they'll say, I believe him. He's our God. He's going to bring the price down. Now he's beginning to tell people, tariffs aren't the problem. And people are believing that. And he says, it's hard now to bring the price down. If he keeps saying that, people are going to say, yeah, he's saying it's hard to bring the price down. They won't remember what he said 2, 3 years ago about the price of food and gas and whatever else he said. It's going to be that way.
Okay. So do you think there's a way to what people try to do with when candidates make promises, they try to hold them accountable by not voting for them again. Unfortunately, people do that. They continue to vote for the people who make the promises. So do you have a proposal that we could hold candidates responsible for the promises they make?
No, there is no way you can hold them responsible unless the people hold them responsible. I mean, people need to understand that if a candidate promises something and he or she does not deliver on it, what is going to be the situation in 2 years or 4 years? Maybe they should not be put it back into office. Maybe something else should happen. People just, I'm not sure if people can do that, but the only way you can hold a candidate to what they state is the people have to understand that they have been gaslit, snowballed, whatever you want to call it, and then react at the next time elections come around.
So do you think promises are inherently problematic?
Yeah, if you don't have details.
Okay.
I mean, I can promise you tomorrow you're going to win the lottery, and you're going to ask me how? No, you just like, oh, good, I'm going to win the lottery.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to get you to win the lottery, but it's in the details. People do not. I believe Harris also was a little bit lacking in detail, but she at least gave some detail on how she was going to do certain things. I don't think Donald Trump gave us any details on anything he would do.
Oh, no. Promises seem to be troublesome because, for a philosophical reason, because humans can't predict the future. So that's why a lot of the religious traditions advise against promises. So when they promise something, they're predicting the future.
Well, that's true. That's one way of looking at it. But, promises with details are more likely to happen, especially the details seem reasonable, than just promises outright to say, I'm bringing everything down. How? He doesn't know how. He's just promising it. So there's less likely a chance that will come to fruition than someone who at least has thought through the process and given it a chance to come through.
Yeah, that
you
makes sense.
have to think through the process.
That makes sense. So, do you think the reason that some would say that would be a good thing that he's not doing that because he's a businessman and they don't like to micromanage. So, but you wouldn't see that way, right?
I don't think micromanaging is the problem. If you have thought through a process and given the process to other people to work in it out. Micromanaging is if you sit behind someone and do their job for them because you don't trust them. In other words, every little tiny thing is micromanaged. He doesn't even manage. I mean, he just promised. He just promised. Thinking through the process is not micromanaging. It's just making some decisions on how it's going to be done.
Okay.
Letting people know.
Sure, that makes sense. So
and actually, he's the exact opposite of micromanaging because he, several times in interviews, people said, are you going to tell this person how to do this or this person to do that or whatever? And he says, oh, no, they can do their own thing. I'm only going to drill, baby, drill. That's it. He doesn't care how anybody does their job otherwise. That isn't even managing. He's putting people in office, telling them what he would like. I would like to have this person jailed, but I'm not going to tell them that. They can do whatever they want. That's not even managing, but that's okay.
So in that case, what he's doing is he's the opposite. He doesn't have the desire to, because you don't want, micromanaging is a problem, but also business experts are going to say the opposite is a problem where you don't provide any guidelines for people. So is that what he's doing? He's not providing any guidelines, and then you can't get anything done that way either.
The only guidelines he is doing is just putting his thoughts out in the air. I would like this to happen. I would like that to happen. But when asked, is he going to tell the people who put that through to do that, he goes, oh, no, they can do whatever they want. And as one interviewer said, well, but you are telling them to do that because they're listening to you say, oh, it'd be nice if so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that. So, I mean, in a way he is telling people how to do it, but he's also saying they can do whatever they want. I mean, that makes no sense. Why do we put him as president if he can't even run the United States of America?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I agree. So that seems like he's not effective. His words are not his actions, and his way of doing things is not effective.
Yeah, he basically, I believe he basically is making wishes out there, and by saying, oh, I'm not telling them to do that, they can do whatever they want, he is trying to absolve himself from anything that happens in the future, because the people he's putting in office are very loyal to him, not to the government, but loyal to him, and they'll follow his wishes. But then when they do it or something goes wrong, he'll say, oh, I had nothing to do with that. I don't know what they're doing. So I'm not sure that is the way to do life, or do a government, or run the country. It's just his way of doing things. He's a 78-year-old gentleman who...
Gentleman?
No, he is. He's a man. He's a gentleman. And
okay.
He is... really, I don't believe he has interest in running this country. I don't think he has an interest in caring for people. And I believe he just wants to get his way as as whatever.
Okay. So you would see him as, certainly other politicians have had attributes of this, like this before, but he'd be everything squared that we've seen before. All the negative stuff of candidates squared.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think his popularity right now is 41% of the country. That's pretty low for someone who hasn't even started office.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And even though he thinks he won by, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is that okay?
It's okay with me.
Okay, I'm hearing myself speak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you can adjust it, that's great. If you can't, it's all right. Do what you can. It would be great.
I can't adjust anything.
Okay, that's fine. Then we can continue. That's okay.
Okay. Anyway, what I'm saying is, what was I saying? 41% rate of popularity. He did not win the election by a landslide. He actually didn't get 50% of the vote. He was below 50%. So was Harris, and the last little bit went to other people.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It wasn't she had a respectable turnout in her votes. The people criticized her campaign. It wasn't the worst campaign we've ever seen in history. So she did get she was in the running. It was competitive. Yeah, he had the edge, so sure. So,
mean, he did win it legitimately. I'm going to be the first to say that. But he didn't win it by a landslide. There wasn't a mandate. He didn't even get 50% of the vote. And he is now at 41% of popularity. And I think it's going down.
Goodness gracious. So yes, that there is a testament to your thesis that the political campaigns are producing apathy and dislike of candidates. So it got us where we're at right now.
Yeah, I just think that we need to look at a way to change our political campaigning. It's just gotten worse when we allowed corporations and people to throw any amount of money at our campaigns. I mean, Musk right now is throwing money into the British campaigning, and they're saying, no way. They're fighting back because he's not a British subject.
Yeah, good for them. So some would say that part of the issue is also the type of candidates we're electing. Right now we have a reality star, and because of the way campaigns are, it's about entertainment, and because he's a reality star, he's good with entertainment. So So do you see that the role of television as a negative force in that way, or do you think it can be reformed, the use of television in campaigns?
I don't care if he was a reality star or not. I mean, I guess some people voted for him because they liked The Apprentice. But that also was a fallacy. That wasn't really a reality show. It was like any other reality show made up. But I just think that we have good candidates,
Okay, good.
but it's just the way he had the money, and then he also had backers with plenty of money. And again, that gets back to, well, you want quality candidates, don't rule out those who don't have money.
Yes, good point. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be hard to put those to the forefront as the state of the election system is right now.
Yep.
Yep. So your thesis is as timely and relevant as ever.
Yeah, we'll see in 4 years if anything changes, but I doubt it.
Yep. We do thank you for sharing your ideas. It's good food for thought. It's good for us to think about it, and I trust some of us are going to take action and do what we can to change the system. So we appreciate hearing what you have to say today.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
You too. Take care and all the best. Have happy holidays.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.